Okay, welcome everyone. I'm Lee Jenkins, and I'm with my host from Austria, Karin Gatrnik, who also just published a book. You might be able to find that on Amazon. Uh, Although I think it's in Austrian at the moment. There is an English version coming, but right at the moment, if you happen to speak German, you can find that on Amazon.com or would it be .de or something like that. But anyways, go to Amazon. You'll find it. Karin Gatrnik. Just look it up. Check it out. I'm sure she'd appreciate it if you maybe got a copy of that. That'd be great. So we're back with dealing with Raymond Hollowell's book, Working with the Law, and we're on the chapter called The Law of Increase. Another great chapter. Actually, every chapter in this book is fantastic. It's interesting because this was written back in 1939, and mostly you're going to find a lot of the books today, and even a lot of your coaches that you may know, the famous ones especially, you're going to find a lot of what they teach can be found in this book, along with a lot of other books like Think and Grow Rich and so on and so, which we've done a lot of episodes of that as well from the chapters. But this again, I really like this book. I learned about it through Bob Proctor. So I obviously got a copy of it and started reading and studying it. It's a fantastic book. Now, one thing with it as we go through it, we're talking about laws of the universe here. Now, Raymond Hollowell makes a lot of reference to issues or things that he's found in the Bible, a lot of quotes and things like that. But it's important to understand this is not religious. It's a kind of a spiritual way of looking at things, and he's just simply using what the Bible says to reinforce what he is saying here. And again, this is about laws of the universe, not religion. So just keep that in mind, because we probably say God a lot because we're basically you're just going through the chapter. So we might say talk about Jesus. We might say God a lot. You can replace that with whatever you want to replace it with. Some people say source. Some people say universe, divine. I have no problem with the word God, so we're just going to read it as is. Sound good?
Yeah.
We're on board, right, Karin? I imagine. Okay, I'm going to start reading, and we're just going to take turns with this and maybe make some comments on what we're reading and go from there. So I'm reading first because it says right here, Lee Reed.
It
So
says leave.
that's my name. So I'm going to start with, he says, start out with saying, without exception, I believe everyone has read or heard the delightful story of Aladdin and his magic lamp. Our poor boy had stumbled upon the little genie who led him to find a dusty old lamp. It was a magic lamp, and when he rubbed it briskly, a little man appeared out of a cloud before him and asked to fill his wishes. We, as children, have always dreamed of fairies and of beautiful things in life that we wished we might have. Yet many of our dreams remained as such because we could not do anything, or we do nothing about them. Well, that's true. Like, and we're kind of, made me think when I was reading this again is, when we're young, we're encouraged to dream. And then sadly, when we go to school, usually like around the age of 5 or so, they try to get us to stop doing that. Like it's, stop daydreaming, stop looking out the window. It kind of strikes me as that we should have a whole, maybe a year of just helping people dream, helping children dream and envision possibilities and have them believe in themselves and things like that. I just think that would make things so much better when those children become adults. But obviously, nobody's ever wanted to do that for some reason. But anyhow, that's my thought on that. Any thoughts on that one there, Carl?
Absolutely. The daydreaming is such a beautiful gift. And when kids practice this daydreaming, it's wonderful to watch them.
Yeah.
And that's something it's sad because we grow up when we are adults, we don't use it because people around us have trained us not to do it.
Right.
But it's such an essential part of and manifesting and good feeling. If you are in your own world, if you then you're connected, and that's so beautiful. It's really sad that we lose this gift,
Yeah.
but we can learn it again. And
we can learn it again. You might even be able to learn it by reading your new book.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or just following along with what we're doing right now. That might help as well, right? So Okay, so anyways, he carries on here. He says, in truth, we may not believe in fairies, but we know there is a principle equivalent to the magic lamp. No, it is not something material that we can carry about and rub it at will to find a little genie to do our bidding. It is an understanding which enables us to use the law more clearly. And in using it, we stimulate our good and bring about much of our pleasure and happiness that seems like magic or miracles. Goes on to say also, this understanding is the act of praising God, the law. Notice here he's God and the law. He's calling it two different things. For that which we desire, and invariably the fulfillment of that desire is speeded up to almost magic proportion. Now, again, he goes on here, says, this method is, of course, not new. It has been used throughout the Bible from beginning to end. Praise has ever been a common method used to employ the attention, favor, and blessing of God, however one believed in it. In early history, we learned that the people who bring their sacrifices and place them on the altar to gain the favor of Jehovah, following this act, they would render their praise in song and ceremony, believing that by so doing, they would be favored. Their prayers would be granted from doing all that, right? So read the Song of Moses and note its structure. Read of the fall of Jericho and note the process used by the people who marched about the city walls until they crumbled and fell, and who became conquerors. Read the last Psalms of David, and in doing so, remember that it has been used by the Hebrews for ages and has been most effective throughout centuries. Now, he goes on to say here, the singing of songs or the blowing of trumpets does not bring the results you pray for, nor do you suddenly gain favor with God because of it. The effect of your efforts does not influence God in any sense, but it does influence you. That's important. It enables you to be lifted up and unconsciously touch the law and gain its blessing. That's what we're trying to do here, right? So what has been an unconscious act or an accidental method can become a known fact and a regular means of stimulating for your good. If one learns a simple method of praise, that alone will stimulate and increase the good. Very, very important. Praise is very important. Gratitude, right? So Jesus once said, if one has faith as a grain of mustard seed, he can move mountains. If one can realize the power of praise, he can do the same. Praise is complementary to faith. Whereas faith is wisdom and understanding, praise is the application of that understanding. It goes on to say faith is the boiler that holds a substance of power, whereas praise is the fuel that generates that power into an active force. If you must constantly watch your boiler and care especially for the fuel that charges it in order to get the most out of it, then the fuel is a very important part of the machinery. I like this part where he says, in like manner, faith without praise is but a cold boiler. Now, obviously, in today's world, we don't necessarily have boilers anymore. There are some, but most places don't have them. But anyways, he goes on to say, it's basically an inert mass of machinery if it's a cold boiler. It may be nice to look at or to talk about, but of no value more than that until it is put in motion and produces. Praise is a stimulant of the mind. It quickens prayer. It magnetizes all the good around you. It transforms that good into usable, visible substance. So very important. A woman was, he goes on to say, a woman was crying bitterly and praying tearfully to God for her release. The master, hearing her, silenced her and asked, is your God a God of fear, tears, or grief and anguish and pain? No. God is a giver of joy and peace and happiness and love. So he says, you want peace and joy, yet you pray to your Father with tears. If you want black, do you ask for white? If you ask for a fish, do you expect a serpent? If you ask for bread, do you expect a stone? You can only get what you expect, for the unchanging law is ever working to supply you. Like this part here too. Prayer should not be one of supplication, pleading, begging, entreating a sad state. It should be one of claiming, declaring, decreeing, praising, and a joyful thanksgiving. That's important, right?
Yeah, that's interesting. There are so many parts in in this paragraphs here.
Yeah.
Few lines and so much information. So first, I think it's when we praise, what he says about praying and talking to God, and the praising is not only makes God not better, but it's good for us, and that's what happens if we are thankful. This is the connection, also with the music, with songs. Then we are in alignment, and that's the attraction point.
Yeah.
That's what he says here at the last part you were reading. Uh, if you want black, do you ask for white? Yeah, we always get back what we are sending out.
Yeah. That's important to understand, right? It's that vibration you're in. If you're saying, I'm hurting, you need to start to focus on not hurting and send that out, and then you're going to have opportunities and things that come to you that it's going to solve that problem. And I think this is a fantastic book. I highly recommend it. Oh, by the way, if anybody wants a downloadable copy of it, just reach out to Karin or myself, and we'll make sure that you get one. So this says Karin reads next. Does it say that on yours?
Raymond Hollywell knew that I was reading. He's standing, Karin is reading. Okay. So next is, he writes here, praise in an avenue of prayer through which the spirit law expresses itself. Praise is a broad highway, while all other forms are only feeding arteries. Through this inherent law, when man praises, he opens himself upward to God. He lifts his consciousness to a higher realm and becomes greater channel to receive the good that is ever waiting to come to him. Praise opens a little door in his mind that enables him to draw closer to God and to be attuned to the divine forces within and about him. Praise is the shortest route to complete any demonstration and the quickest way to enjoy effectual prayer. Praise expands and opens the mind upward, while its opposite, condemnation, contracts and restricts. So he goes on with, the whole creation responds to praise and is glad. You may have noted how a trainer, after each performance of his charges, would give them a satisfied pet or some morsel of food they especially liked. That man was wise in using the law in bringing out the best work from his charges and thereby giving the best performance. You have noticed perhaps how children would glow with gladness and joy when they receive commendation and praise. Those who have trouble with the servants or helpers can learn much by using this method and will find a great difference in the quality and quantity of work produced.
Absolutely. Yeah, that kind of thing there, if you've got people that work for you, for example, like it's you get some employers who only want to tell their employees what they're doing wrong, and all that does is make an unhappy employee. And even though they may start to do things differently to try to impress that boss, you're not going to get out of them what you could get out of them if you were just simply to praise them, right? That's the thing is, if you keep telling somebody they're doing a great job, they're going to continue a great job. In fact, they're going to do their best to do an even better job. And it's amazing to me how people don't understand that. Like even that same person who may be criticizing their employees probably wants to be praised as well by whoever. Maybe there's somebody that owns the property or the business or something like that, but even anybody. But I don't never really understood why employers would ever talk down, unless obviously there's a reason, like if somebody's behaving really badly or something like that, then that's a different thing. But anyways, just want to throw that in. Carry on, Karin Gatrinik.
Yeah. He goes on. You have experienced it sometime, I'm sure. This law you ever had someone to condemn or criticize your efforts when you were trying to please? Did you not feel like folding up within yourself? Perhaps you even felt like quitting the job and letting someone else worry about it. Least of all, such an experience suppressed your interest and zeal, and you did not decide to do better. That is how one reacts when the law is reversed.
Right.
So he goes on,
I'm just going to
whereas
say, obviously, people tell you good things because you never stop smiling, do you?
even when I read or
Even when you read, you smile when you read. Like it's. I'm just trying to be able to see it when I'm reading it. So.
So he goes on, whereas when someone praises you for your efforts, you feel like expanding and doing better, trying harder to be more perfect. Your interest becomes greater because of that pleasure. And with your happiness, you bring happiness into your work and all around you. It is a well known fact that even plant life is responsive to praise, for I have seen flowers praised to longer life and beauty.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very important for all the employers, because we should treat everyone else like we want to be treated.
Right.
If employers would bring this attitude in the company, they could change a lot.
Yeah. You're just saying that about the flowers made me think about you and your horses. Like they respond to praise. They respond to positive vibration, right? Like, these
Absolutely.
are animals. Like even I've got a cat. You've got dogs and cats. They respond to praise. In
Yeah.
fact, they respond so much that sometimes they could be annoying because they want continued praise. Right? So,
Yeah.
and then don't we all want continued praise? I think so. Thanks.
Yes, of course. And I think it's really necessary for growth
Yeah.
for everyone. No matter if we are in interaction with other people, with our children, with animals, the positive energy always wins. Oh, energy wins anyways. If you put some negative energy into something or someone,
Right.
yeah,
It's
you
gonna
have
win.
to increase. And it's the same with the positive energy.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So we are where? Okay, here we go. When we are praised or praise ourselves, there is a physical response within our bodies. Doctors tell us that the cells of our body respond to the law. They seem to know and to expand in strength, in capacity, and even in intelligence. Of course, we know that it is the mind working through every cell that causes the expansion. This is so interesting. I love this paragraph because now it's so clear that the mind affects the body and the health. So and every issue we have, body health issue, the root is in the mind, is in the thinking.
Yeah, you think, we often have worry, doubt, fear, stress, anxiety in our life. And the more you focus on that, the more it starts to break down the cells in your body. That negativity is going to cause things to, well, basically disintegrate, which causes disease. And again, I think, I imagine you agree, is that, it's not necessarily an easy thing because you put yourself there in the first place somehow. And then do it blame or anything like that. It's just that the cause has got something to do with our thinking. So if your thinking has caused illness, well, then I think it's safe to say that your thinking can cure that illness at the same time. And you find that's
Yeah.
you can find people that have really serious problems and they're in the hospital and with a very positive attitude, having great people around them that only talk about health and well-being. Those people end up leaving the hospital much sooner than maybe somebody who was focusing on the problem as much. So I think most doctors would actually tell you that a good, happy, healthy attitude is going to make things go easier, right? So.
Absolutely. And if we take this, all the informations about the cells, if we recognize and we are aware that every single cell is an own organism. The cells are very intelligent, and we can give the cells the information we want them to program. So we can program our body, and that's really interesting. And I think our body is so clever and smart. We can heal ourselves.
And something along what you're just saying too. A lot of people think that their brain is their mind, and it's not. Your mind is in every cell of your body, and it is intelligent.
Absolutely.
It's almost sometimes too intelligent. That's why it gets us into trouble. Right. So
yeah. So he goes on with all thoughts act through an invisible ether. As water expands into power when it is heated and retards into a solid mass of ice when it is chilled, the law of spirit is reflected in the law of physics. Though we may not sense it or fully understand it, our thoughts are moving continually in this invisible ether, and they are either increasing or diminishing in power and intelligence. When we praise the richness and opulence of God, the law, our thoughts are greatly increased in the mental atmosphere. This increase affects our being in that it reflects in every our mind and hands may touch. If we are contracting our thoughts through fear, criticism, and complaint, we reflect that contraction and our results are delayed or frozen.
Yeah. And the sad part is that's happens in majority of people's lives. Right?
Absolutely.
We get frozen in place into some negative place. Right? It's really it's kind of sad. Yeah. I know for a fact, I've been there. I think everybody has, where you've not been in such a great place. It takes time, it takes work, it takes studying these kind of materials. It helps you get there. Right? Okay, it says Lee reads.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Well, it must be my turn, right? Okay, so he goes on to say here, it has been proven that a failing business can be praised into success. I completely agree with that one. I've lived that one. and I've also been the opposite of that too, where I've had a successful business get turned into a failing business by my thinking. And that's the key, is you have to learn that it's your thinking that's going to cause you to act. It's your thinking that's going to cause what is brought into your world. But if you're trying to turn around a failing business, you got to start being grateful for everything that you already have. And there has to be a belief and expectation in your heart that the good is coming. So that's what he's talking about, is that praise. Number one, praise the good you already have. And then praise also what is coming. Expect it, believe it, right? Now, he goes on to say, suppose lost friends have, did I just cut you off? Were you going to say something there? Or you want me to just keep reading?
No, just keep reading. Yeah.
Okay, I thought I cut you off for a second. Sorry. Suppose lost friends have returned their affection when the law of praise was used. That's happened too, right? One man told me that while out driving, he heard a clicking noise develop in the rear of his car. He talked to his machine and praised it to get him home safely and without delay. So he's praising the car, right? He drove some 30 miles and rolled into the driveway safely. When he tried to move the car further, he discovered a broken axle. Goes on to say here, a woman wrote me stating that she was weary looking at an old carpet that had seen better days and had given good service. She tried the praise method and began to speak kindly to the old rug. Within a few days, she had word that a brand new carpet was on its way from Colorado, and that same week, she received 3 smaller rugs equally as new. Her husband, upon seeing the contrast with the new floor covering, decided hurriedly that they must have a new suite of furniture. So all in all, the law worked. And by praising the old rug, she has a newly furnished living room. Whether the changes are in inanimate things or in individuals, it matters not so long as the desired results are obtained. The law works without discrimination. This actually reminds me of a story in Bob Proctor's book, You Were Born Rich. He talks about some friends of his. He was over, and the wife was, I think the friends had just recently got a new house, or I can't remember exactly, but I think it was the wife really would like to see them get a new dining room set because it was old and she wanted something newer and things like that. And the husband was immediately saying, well, we just really can't afford to be buying that right now because, my sales have been down, and I just don't have the extra money to be buying new furniture. And then Bob said, well, do you want new furniture? And he said yes. And obviously the wife wants new furniture. And he said, well, you have to expect furniture. And he goes, well, I expect to get it at some point, but when do you want it? Well, sooner the better. Well, then he said, well, you don't expect to get it because you're still thinking about it. And they said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, if you expected to get it, then you would have cleared out the old furniture and made room for the new furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. And it was only a matter of a few days, a week or something like that, and they had brand new furniture. His sales went up. He earned more money in the following few days to be able to go out and buy that furniture. See, there's an expectation, right? And
absolutely,
if
it's
you
so
really,
great.
and the key there too is, making room for it. How can you expect something if there's nowhere to put it? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like people would like to have new relationships. Well, then maybe you need to get rid of some of the old ones. Right? Things like that. If you want new furniture, maybe you need to get rid of the old furniture because guess what? You're going to get acting and moving towards getting new stuff, right? So,
Yeah.
I imagine you've had that issue, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I do it all
It's
the
so
time.
interesting. If I experience the material, we are reading about this stuff, and I have a movie in my mind, all the things. So what I experienced my whole life, it was all my thinking. That's what I'm knowing now and today. I was not conscious about what I'm doing for many, many years, but it's so great if you tap into this material and really you recognize what a power is behind that.
Yeah,
That's great. And if you expect something, then you get it, whether it's good or bad.
that's right.
What you're thinking about, you're bringing about.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you expected a new home and you got one.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was a little bit too fast. Yeah. Within 3 weeks, I had this new home. It was a little bit fast. Yeah.
But definitely worth
But
it,
it's
right?
good. It was a perfect time. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's contributed to the consistent smiling, right?
Yeah.
I'm always giving Karen a bit of a ribbing over her smiling because she never stops smiling. What's great about it is this is something too. It goes in line with what we're talking about here. Is your smiling makes me smile, and your smiling, I imagine, makes everybody smile, right? Like
Yeah.
I was playing around with that a little bit yesterday. I actually had to go and get my driver's license renewed. I forgot to do it on my birthday. And so I had to actually go. I had gone past the time limit, so I had to actually go to the office that does it. And there's the lady at the counter that I was talking to. She had a mask on, which I was thinking, why are you wearing a mask? But she actually explained it. But I walked up, big smiling, how are you? And I know that, like, think about that kind of an office. That person was there all day long because it was at the end of the day when I got there. And it was actually a lineup. I probably took me half an hour just to get to the counter.
Wow.
So I'm thinking now this poor woman has been sitting there all day long talking to people, keep coming up, and I would imagine not everybody's nice because not everybody's going to be happy about their standing in line for half an hour or longer. So my first thought was, I'm just going to see if I can get her to smile, and she, boom, right away woke right up because that's what I did. I said, well, you seem to be in a really good mood for somebody who's had to been here all day. And she goes, yeah, I got used to it, and started talking. And she started explaining to me the mask. She's got some procedures that she's going to have done. And they told her to wear a mask because they didn't want her to have anything prior to the procedure. And I said, well, at least you're still smiling. And she goes, how can you tell? I go, what's in your eyes? She pulled the mask down and talked to me from that point on. She's been wearing that mask all day long. She was wearing that mask. And then after that, she pulled the mask down so she would continue to keep talking, and I could see her smile. We were joking around. I had to have my picture taken and everything, and I kept saying things like, "Make sure you get my best side." It's just a machine you stand in front of, right? It's not like there's anybody adjusting it. It's like, but she did actually take 2 shots. She says, "Okay, yeah, that was better. The second was better."
Perfect.
I bet you there's nobody else that got two photos, and the person actually picked the one they liked the most, right?
Yeah.
But again, that's about smiling and sending praise and just simply trying to lift people, right? So, okay, so where did I leave off at? Okay, but better still, through praise is this will probably talk about what I was just talking about. Anyways, but through praise is good for other persons and things. It is our salvation too. Praise changes our observation, our whole outlook of life. In the past, we were in the habit of seeking our weaknesses and failings as well as the shortcomings of others, but now we see differently. We look for the accomplishments, the good, and the beauty that is worthy of our praise. This, in turn, has a dual effect. It enriches our human self, and we are able to radiate praise, joy, courage, and happiness to all who are affected by our influence. It affects our inner self in such a way that our memory begins to retain the praiseworthy thoughts sent to it. This sets up a new system of thinking, and gradually the old thoughts that we're destroying become absorbed in the new ones. Absolutely. There's that repetition, right? Thus, it becomes habitual to think praises, and our thought and our life takes on the likeness of all good that is worth praising. That goes into what you're actually saying too, about we get conditioned, by our environments and things like that. If you're grow up in a household where there's no praise, or you watch your family constantly criticizing workers and criticizing employees of companies, and complaining about services and things like that, well, you're going to be conditioned to do the same thing. But you know what? You're never going to be happy, and that's the key, right? It's
that's the key.
I was talking about that lady at the driver's license place. I think I improved her day, but you know what? I left there feeling really good. And I was watching most people that were there, because again, it's like a half an hour line. You had to stand in line for half an hour, and nobody was happy about that. Yeah, I left there actually feeling pretty good. So it works.
Yeah, absolutely, it works, and it has so much effect in the world, because this lady goes home in a good mood, and when she comes home and she comes to her family and she's in a good mood, I am sure that the family is also in a good mood.
Yeah.
This is the law of increase.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to controlling your thoughts, like even if you go home and you're in a good mood and the family's not, well, you don't have to participate in their bad mood. It's a choice.
Yeah, it's a choice. Exactly.
So praise with the heart is far more vital and effectual than praise with the head or praise from the lips. Basically saying you got to mean it, right? Praise does not flatter nor influence God, as it does some humans who are turned by superficial praise and applause. Praise is not intended for God. It is intended only for man, and is an aid to enable man to lift himself upwards to become attuned with the law of God. It raises his state of consciousness that he may become more receptive to the good about him, and lifts him above the lack of it. Praise raises man's vibration, speeds up his activity, stimulates his faith, and contacts a higher realm of thought. That's a good sentence there. I like that one. We copy from the Israelites, a practice that falls annually. Each year, we have a Thanksgiving service. That's coming up, actually, in the U.S. We had ours already. Do you do that in Austria? Do you have Thanksgiving in Austria?
Yeah, we have it. Yes, of course. Thanksgiving, yeah.
Is it this time of year, or
Yeah, it's always It was already.
No,
It's
yeah.
in October, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, so yours and the Canadian one is similar, then, right?
yeah,
The U.S. is coming up. Anyways, we copy from, I said this, right? So Thanksgiving started. Many think it is for us to express our gratitude for the year past. If you think a moment, you can readily see that this is a reversal of the law of praise. Such a service should not be a review. It should be a preview.
preview. Mm-hmm.
Very important. That is, a true Thanksgiving service should be an expression of our faith, not in the past, but in the present and in the future to come. Many of us have gotten into a rut. We want our pay in advance. We offer praise after our barns are well filled. If all is going well, we are willing to pause to give thanks for our good fortune. Anyone can be grateful with the gift already in hand. If conditions are bad, our harvest lean, or trouble besets us, we are apt to forget to praise. And when we storm at our failures, and we often blame God for his neglect. That happens all the time. Right? Actually, you know, it's interesting too. This is a long time ago. I was just a kid, and my friend, his mother would praise everything. Like she'd trip over something, and she'd go, "Oh, thank God." And I'm thinking, what's she praising God for tripping? And I remember I didn't ask her about that, but at some point it was down. As I felt more comfortable around her, I actually said, "Why do you keep saying thank you for stuff that doesn't go right?" And she says, "Because it's an opportunity to learn." So I'm
That's
thanking
great.
for that. I'm thanking for being thankful for the opportunity to learn. Like even tripping over a stone or something on a sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now you know where the stone is, right? So you're not going to do it again, right? So that's her thinking was she would praise everything, like it's and it made sense. She's a very happy lady, really happy lady.
And to be grateful and thankful for everything. This is a very special vibration.
Yeah, right.
So here we are again at this point. The point of attraction, what we are sending out, is coming back.
You got it. Yeah. So he says, when one can sing praises in the face of adversity, the adversity will soon disappear. Right? And it's true.
Yeah.
Like, you can get to the point where there is no adversity in your life. You might have the odd little thing, but that's, again, it's probably a lesson needs to be learned.
Yeah.
Like even, and this is something too, we talked about it in abundance tuning in the chapter on reality. We're the cause of everything. Right. So if
Everything.
something's going wrong, don't blame somebody else or anything or the circumstances or anything. What you need to do is ask yourself, why are you in this position? Like, I get people, that love to, they break up with their boyfriend, girlfriend, or something like that. They love to go on and on and on and on about how terrible that person was. And, really what you should be doing is why were you with that person?
Absolutely. And what are you thinking about this person?
Right. Right.
Yeah,
If
it's
that
a
person,
wonderful chance to learn a lot about ourselves,
yourself,
how
right.
we're thinking, and what beliefs do we have, and what programs come up over and over again, what pattern we have programmed.
Right.
And that's interesting.
Yeah. A lot of times if you're with somebody that's not very nice, you got self-image issues personally. And
Yeah,
if you don't work on that, then guess what? You're going to meet someone else that's the same.
it's the same. Yeah.
And I always love the part too where I hear, well, they weren't like that when we met. Yes, they were. They were
Mm-hmm.
putting on a show. And the reality is you still attracted that person to you because that's the vibration you're on. So when you get back into, the idea that we are the cause, and then you're going to find that things get a lot different, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've made a lot of mistakes in those areas, and I'm not doing it again. I'm better. I'm a better person personally today. So anyhow, I'm going to read that first line again. When one can sing praises in the face of adversity, the adversity will soon disappear. Now, that is not a promise, he says. That is a law. Learn to render praise, to be thankful for the good at hand, and you will have found the magic lamp of spirit. This attitude of mind not only brings forth our desires, but it also generates our confidence, strengthens our faith, builds up an assurance for the things to come. Thus, to be able to praise when things appear the darkest will invariably force the sunshine through. Our degree of faith in the law and God is measured before we receive, not afterwards. It is that degree of faith that determines what we shall be capable of receiving.
Absolutely. Yeah. We all have the possibility to hold the lamp in our hands, the lamp with the ghost, the wonder lamp.
Aladdin's lamp, right?
The what?
Aladdin's lamp.
Aladdin's lamp. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, polish it. Boom, here we go.
I just thought of something. If that was my lamp, it'd probably be rusty. It's I'm not really big on cleaning stuff, so I don't know if I'd be polishing it. It'd probably be, anyhow, sorry, carry on.
So I think it's my turn.
That's what it says.
Okay, so here we go. This is what Jesus knew when he said, what things soever you desire when you pray, believe that you receive them and you shall have them. Okay. Praise is this belief in action, and that action is in the present tense. It is in the now. Samples of his work show us how he approached his problems. In one case, he turned to the patient and asked, do you believe? To another, he questioned, do you perceive? In one of his most trying tests, that of going to the tomb where his beloved friend Lazarus lay dead, we see his approach no different. He stood apart from the mourners, and his first words of prayer were, Father, I thank thee that thou hast heard me. What could one be thankful for at the time like that? But the master knew he was grateful for the answer to his prayer that Lazarus would be restored to life again. Directly he called out in a loud voice, Lazarus, come forth. And the book reads that Lazarus stirred in his grave clothes and returned to his body again. Yeah, interesting story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
It's, something I find, one second here. I find fascinating about this particular paragraph here is, when he's talking about what Jesus said, what things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them and ye shall have them. Mm-hmm. Very few people actually really ever even, they might study the Bible, they go to church every Sunday or whatever they're doing. And that right there kind of says everything. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this was, a couple thousand years ago, at a time when, there was no cell phones, there was no television, there was no radio. This is just a person who had an understanding and an awareness that very few people probably have ever had, but definitely at that particular time didn't have. So again, I just want to let you carry on. What things soever ye desire when ye pray, believe that ye receive them and ye shall have them. That's that faith, that praise, right?
Yeah, believing is everything. If we don't believe, we can't have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Problem is there's times when you may actually get it, but then you probably don't believe you deserve it, which means you're going to lose it.
Right? Yeah, that's another question. Yeah. These false beliefs, it's amazing, and it's interesting how we all can program the subconscious. Mm-hmm. We can say we believe it, but really believing comes deep from the heart, like praising.
Yeah.
This is everything you praise with your mind and with your lips. It doesn't work because it's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It has to come from the heart, and also the faith and the belief and the appreciation and everything you feel really deeply in the heart. And that's what he knew, and what they knew at this time. So many years ago, it was written by Raymond Halliwell. What is it, 1937, 1939?
39, I think it was it.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich was 37, and this was 39. Those are
Okay.
actually, if you think about it, you take Think and Grow Rich and Working with the Law and put them together, I think you got the perfect book.
Absolutely. New
Or
idea.
or you can you just go to Amazon and get Karen's book.
Yeah, it's gonna be in English too the next days, maybe.
Very good.
So here we go. At another time, 10 lepers called the master asking to be healed. He directed them to go show themselves to the priests. Later one of the men came back and expressed his gratitude to Jesus for having been cleansed. Jesus turned to him and asked, were there not 10 cleansed, but where are the 9? To the one who touched the law, he said, arise, go thy way. Thy faith hath made thee whole. It's interesting how he wrote it. Yeah. One out of 10 showed his willingness to return with a grateful heart. He received a permanent healing. Many students fail to repeat their demonstrations because they take too much for granted, or they become careless with the law after they have enjoyed some blessing. One of the first requisites of the law is that we keep ever an attitude of praise and thanksgiving. If we hope to receive of God's outpouring good, we must keep ourselves receptive, and praise is one of the simplest means known to accomplish this. Be ever grateful for the very last of things, and the very most will come to you. We must keep our thoughts uplifted always, and praise is the means that will do this. If there is any ingratitude lurking in our mind and heart, begin at once to learn the Psalm of David. Praise Yah, the law Lord. And that's also very interesting because I knew that I did it also in the past, and I always see it again when I work with my clients, that people praise and people are grateful and thankful and are really consciously in this awareness of the gratitude and in the good vibration. And then they have the first results and the evidences that the law is working or the laws are working, and then they stop doing it. And that's what I say. That's not something you learn. That's not a program you make for 1, 2, 3 months, maybe for half a year, maybe for a year. This is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
I always said this is a new lifestyle of living.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to become that person that thinks that way, feels that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Really
takes time, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know.
And only if we embody this new version, then we have the experiences everlasting.
When everything starts to change. The reality is we live in a world that there is no shortage of anything.
Mm-hmm.
If there's something missing in your life, it's because you're causing it. And again, I find it interesting. I like the way Raymond Hollowell has used the Bible a lot. It's obviously he's not a religious person, because he's using, like, when he says God, he's talking about law, universal law. which is God.
Mhm.
Or again, you can call it source, you can call it divine, you can call it whatever, universe, whatever you want to call it. But I find it fascinating, and it's already there. Like if you see people that go to church and they're constantly focusing on what's missing in their life, and yet this is in the Bible. Like so there's some kind of a disconnect there. Maybe he talks about a priest, that reverend or minister or whatever that person is to you. Maybe they should be talking to us, and maybe we can say, hey, maybe start teaching this. And it's not, you don't have to change anything, just explain it differently.
Just
It's
explain it differently.
yeah, like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
you go to church, and again, I'm not against religion or churches or anything. I think that if that's something that is lifts you spiritually, then you should go. Don't change it. Why change it, right? But there's a lot of people that go to church on a regular basis that don't come away necessarily focusing on what could be and how things could be and better. We're constantly being told to praise God or praise Jesus, which again, if that works for you, then do that. But it's also, making it seem as though those entities are making decisions for you. And no, they're not. They're simply responding to you, and you can have anything you want. They want you to have anything you want. And that's a part, it took me a lot of years to start to understand that. And I'm getting understanding it more and more and more all the time, actually. It's interesting too when you start to realize that you can have anything you want. You start to realize that some of the things you thought you want aren't that important anymore. Like, I remember when I was young, I always had to have the nicest, fastest cars. And I really could care less. I still like the idea, but I don't need one now. See, I needed one before to feel good about myself.
Yeah.
Right? Now I don't need one. I barely drive, actually. The car sits in the driveway most of the time. So what do I need to, anyhow, that's my thoughts. But carry on. You're doing really well here. I just picked up on what you were saying there, and I just wanted to add something to it. So.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because most of the people that go to the church or they praise or pray at home, no matter if they go to church or not, but if they praise, they are missing something. Or they have circumstances where they say, oh God, why don't you help me? I'm such in this misery and such a bad situation, and what outcome? Why do you do that to me? And that's not the right attitude. Yeah. And I think that's the lack of understanding. That's the lack of understanding how God works and how the laws are working.
Something that's interesting in that I thought about this actually recently, come to think of it. Even when you're in a really bad situation, like, you probably somehow, again, this got nothing to do with blame or fault or anything, but somehow you've caused it. And it's through your thinking. One thing that I find fascinating too, and I've run into lots of people, and I think there's been times in my own life where it's happened too, where you get to the point where you are desperate. And then all of a sudden it seems like you're being rescued.
Yeah.
It almost seems like there is some entity that doesn't want you to fail completely.
Yeah.
Again, maybe it has something to do with what's in your heart. You're bringing yourself to a certain point, but your heart is saying, no, we're not going there anymore.
Mm-hmm. And
then you bring in the answer. When the reality is you could start with the answer and never have to go through that. And I think that's what he's trying to tell us here. And I've learned it from my own experiences, I think, and maybe you probably have as well, right?
Yes, of course, I know these situations. Absolutely. But I think that's the point. If people lose almost everything and they are really down in life, they come to a certain point where they give up. Yeah. But they give up the power to the universe. And that's exactly what we can do anytime. Yeah. We can give it up anytime if we focus just on the things we want and on the positive outcome. And then we say, okay, we give it up.
Right.
Let
Let
go
go.
and let God.
One of my favorite sayings, actually.
Yeah,
And
that's
basically, and
that.
basically even that, like if you follow what Raymond Hallwell's saying, you're let go and let God is let go and let the law,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly.
the law basically says that whatever vibration you're in, you get. So, when you let go and you let God, you're basically giving it up and you just have faith now. There's a belief and expectation and faith in your heart that God is going to fix it. Well, guess what? God's going to fix it.
That's gonna
Because
fix it.
that's
Yeah,
the vibration you just put out into the universe, or
yeah, and
so
that often happens when people are so down in life that they say, "Not I give up, I let it go, and I let God." They say, "I'm down. I have no power anymore. I give it up. I can't do it anymore. I've done. I'm ready with everything," and that's giving up, and that's exactly what's happening. And God repairs everything, or the law, or the
well,
universe.
that person who has that person who has no power gains power by saying, "I'm going to let go and let God."
Absolutely,
They just took
I'm
the power. They
convinced of
just took
this.
the
Yeah,
power back, right? And when you
yeah,
take the power back, the answers start to come. But this is another thing too, is you have to be open to receiving the
mm-hmm,
how, right? That's another thing. A lot of people say, "I want this, I want this, I want this." Well, it's sitting right in front of you, but you can't see it because you're not
mm-hmm,
open to receiving it. Right?
yeah. Okay, so we go on. I think we are good in time.
As we attuned our thoughts, right? Is that where we're at?
As we attune our thoughts to the law of God, the law serves us in proportion. This the late Russell Conwell of the Philadelphia Baptist Temple must have clearly understood when he called his people to attend a special service of praise in song and prayer. Anyone in his church who wished prayers for his problems was urged to come and bring his offerings, leave his name, and state his need. One man of meager means came and asked that his daughter's name be given out. She was a patient in a mental hospital and had to be put away for this reason. The week following the praise service, he called to see his daughter in the hospital and was amazed to have her brought down to him and pronounced healed. A woman brought her jewels and placed them on the altar as he offering. She was afflicted with a physical condition and suffered painfully. She was unable to walk without the aid of her crutches. When leaving the church after the service, she tripped and fell on the steps. As she was lifted to her feet, she realized she had been healed. Another woman, a widow, came with her mite and asked that she might keep her home, as it was mortgaged and the payments long past due. She went home, but shortly after that, it seemed that things were surely going against her. A leak broke out in a water pipe, and she was forced to call in a plumber to repair it. How she was ever going to pay him, only the Lord would know. When the plumber tore up some floorboards to repair the leak, he uncovered a can of money that her husband had hidden away, and the amount was more than enough to pay the mortgage and the plumber.
Wouldn't that be
And
amazing?
that's the law, and that's the universe. And
That's it's important to understand that you don't need to know how it's going to happen. In fact, it's better if you don't even think about it.
yeah,
Just expect it. And I think that's a lot of the joy too. It comes with the excitement that look at this, it showed up. And it's a lot of times I've done in the past too, where I've focused on something that I want, and I think that I need to have all the answers. And it isn't until you let go that you start to realize that what you think was the path is the wrong path. And when you start to follow the path that you're being led on, you end up where you want to go. And that's the thing is, you're constantly being told that you need to set a goal,
yeah,
but you really only need to know what step one is. And that is wherever you feel like going. Because step 2 will come to you if you have faith, right? If you have faith, a belief, and expectation that whatever that goal is already yours, and you just start moving in whatever direction you think, you will be shown the path. And the only time you're going to get off the path is maybe you need to learn a lesson that's going to help you along the path, right? Because obviously, if you're going to achieve something you've never done before, you're going to have to learn, and you're going to make mistakes. Like, you published a book. You didn't do that before. I would imagine there were probably some problems along the way. I know when I did my first book, I had all kinds of problems, right?
Oh yeah, many problems. Don't ask me how I solved it. I don't know, but it worked. I just did the first step.
That's right.
And that's it. Just go. And I sat down and I had written everything ready for many, many weeks and months already, but I was not capable of finishing it.
Right.
Yeah, and that was my subconscious programming.
Right.
And
now
the first step.
Not only is there a paperback available, but it's available on Kindle, and there's going to be an English speaking version available as well, right?
Yeah, in the next few days, I hope I finished it. The English version.
Wow.
The German version is available already.
Pretty exciting. That's a really good example of exactly what we're talking about. You don't need to know exactly how anything's going to work out. Just expect it. Have faith. Like, obviously this woman had no idea that her husband left a can full of money under the floorboards. Obviously he was hiding it. Hopefully he wasn't hiding it from her, but so what? Yeah. Even if he was, so what? She got exactly what she needed. It was found. And the whole idea of having problems with the plumbing, she would never have found the money had she not had problems with the plumbing. Now, a lot of people would go home and, oh my God, how am I going to pay for a plumber? I don't have any money, and so on and so on. But her faith allowed her to just go ahead and hire the plumber, and sure enough, she got all the money she needed. Right? So
yeah, and the money showed up. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, so my turn to just kind of finish this up. We're pretty much done here, I think.
Yeah, it's the last 2 paragraphs. Yeah.
These happenings are all true and can be repeated by anyone who will fulfill the laws as this believing minister has done. The law cannot fail us when we do not fail it. Learn to turn the law of praise upon anything you are praying for, and you will see action. Praise is faith in action. A faithful law, faithfully observed, will ever reward generously the observer. The law of praise will lift you from sickness to health. It will raise you from ignorance to intelligence, from poverty to influence, from weakness to strength, from fear to courage. In fact, the law of praise will promote you in all things and in all ways. Begin using the law now. You haven't much to begin with, you say? Well, neither did Jesus when he had some 5,000 hungry souls to feed. He had only 5 loaves and a few fish. Yeah, he did something with them. He started action by praising the little at hand, and then passed it about. You know the story, and the master said that what he did, we could do. There are no exceptions with the law. How can it be done? When you learn to take what you have and build upon it, not with scorn and condemnation, but with praise and gratitude, you are working the law, and the law will give you the increase. Praise life, that good is everywhere. Now, even like the story of Jesus feeding 5,000 people with 5 loaves of bread and a couple of fish or whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
If you look at what we're talking about here, his faith was that he would feed them. That doesn't mean that he fed them all with 5 loaves of bread. It means that the bread that he needed arrived.
Yeah,
exactly. And so did the fish. And so did the fish.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the thing to understand is it's not a miracle. I guess it kind of is. Sort of is. It certainly will appear as a miracle. But your life can be changed in a snap of a finger by just simply changing how you see the world and following the laws of the universe, right? So
absolutely. Sometimes I still think that's magic what happens some days.
Yeah.
On some days.
Yeah.
That's still, but with the with the belief and the trust. It's absolutely beautiful to experience the magic.
Yeah. I think we should just all go out today and experience some magic. What do you think?
Yeah, perfect. Okay.
Well, let's do that. So we're going to wrap things up. That was the law of increase. And we'll be back next week with the law of compensation. And I'm Lee Jenkins with Karin Gatrinig. And Karin, if somebody wants to reach out and say hello, what's the best way for them to do that? Your website?
Your website, my website, yes.
On my website, your website.
My website, karingattanik.com. Yeah.
And if you do want to reach out to me, not Karin, which liamjenkins.com. So great seeing everyone, and we'll talk again very, very soon. Take care.
Bye.